Day 8 of the Stuck at Home Photography Challenge. Stay tuned. Hey gang, Day 8. As always, thank you for watching. I hope that you are safe. I hope that you are healthy. And I hope that you are practicing social distancing. So for today, we're going to do something with these big mailing tubes. Now, you may remember these tubes from this video that I did a little over a year ago where I made the strip light modifier for Speedlights. When I did that video, I bought a case of them and I've had them sitting in my garage ever since. I took the trash out this morning and saw them sitting there and realized, oh, tubes, little mini tunnels that I can put light through. This will be awesome. So I've got a bunch of these tubes stacked up here, and you can see as I bring this GoPro in closer, they do have some labeling on the inside. So I'm gonna have to work with that a little bit, and we will. I wanna try and avoid the labeling as much as possible. But my tools for the day, still for this week, the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark III with the 25mm f1.2. This is our Nifty 50 week. I am going to use two different light sources. The Lowell Total Light that you see down there, we've used that a couple times this week. That's the tungsten balanced light. And I'm also going to bring in a flash today, a Godox 8200. And we're going to use some colored gels on the flash. I've got them here, the Magmod gels in the wallet. So we'll talk about those as we go along. Tubes are always fun, especially when you've got a cluster of them. You can put light at one end, shine it through. So many abstract things that you can do. You can find stuff like this on a construction site. I know when I was a kid, I would go on a construction site where they were putting sewer pipes in, and they'd have all the pipes stacked up, and you do all these really cool shapes and angles and light coming through. So that's essentially what we're going to create. Now, I want to try and shorten these videos down a little bit more. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just let the camera run, kind of like almost like a time-lapse thing, but I'm just going to leave it run. We'll speed it up. And then when I get back to the office, I'm going to narrate over it to let you know what I'm doing. That way, my talking and the things that I'm sharing with you are going to be more concise. They're not going to take up as much time. I really don't want you guys spending 40 minutes listening to me and watching me move around stuff and take pictures. I'll make sure that I share all the little tips along the way, but I want to speed this up so that you're out there taking pictures. So here we go. So we're beginning, of course, with the Lowell Total Light as the hot constant light that is in the back. I'm just on auto white balance. I'm not really worrying about what color temperature does. And initially, I'm just kind of exploring the ends of the tubes, trying to get a feel for what kinds of shapes, lines, how the light is going to work through the tubes. Again, I'm working with that 25mm, it's the 50mm equivalent. You can see here I'm getting some really interesting shapes that show up. And so initially, this is all about the exploration. What can I find? Trying some shots of the outsides where I can see the edges of the tube, really just varying my exposures, trying to see what is available. Now, as I start to get a feel for it, you'll see I'm getting, some really close close-ups. I'm trying some angles. I still haven't kind of really found my groove yet, but I'm looking to see what's available. Trying some shots on the outside, I quickly realized these pretty much didn't work at all. Not when you have those really cool long tubes to get the light patterns out of. So I gave up on that, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and switch the lights. So I'm going to put the Godox 8200. It's got a mag grip on the front of it, and I'm going to put an orange gel on it to get a really warm light. Put a transmitter on the camera so that I can fire the flash. And again, now I want to start to settle in on shots that include symmetry. So you can see as I'm doing these shots here, I'm really shooting straight into the tubes, and I'm just kind of varying my position and my location to see where I'm going to get the most interesting symmetry. Now I realized I had the light a little bit too close. I wanted it to fill the tube a little bit more, so I backed it up, and I'm going to try shots really close where I'm focusing down into the middle of the tube, and I'm going to try shots backed away a little bit. I'm mixing back and forth between autofocus when I'm doing kind of the shots where I'm further back from the tubes, but then going to manual focus with the focus peaking, because there are so many different options for where I can focus in the tube. And by experimenting a little bit, focusing closer and focusing further away, I can get a sense of what's going to work. So go ahead and switch over to a purple gel now. Gives it, again, a completely different feel. And for some of these shots, I'm really looking to be able to see the outside edges of the tubes as well. I think that adds kind of an interesting feel to it, where you still don't really know what it is we're photographing, but again, it makes it really, really interesting. I grabbed a piece of white foam board just to see what would happen if I could reflect a little bit of light back onto the edges to really make the edges show up, but honestly, it wasn't really providing me any added benefit. So I'm going to keep working these purple angles to see what kinds of patterns and shapes I can get. Again, I'm still in manual focus now. I'm varying my focus from closer ranges to more distant ranges. Again, it's all exploration. There is no right and no wrong with these scenarios. If you don't shoot lots of pictures in scenarios like this, you're simply never going to find the good stuff. So I'll switch over to a teal gel, try a couple shots here, and really not digging the color at all. So I'm going to abandon the teal gel. In fact, I'm going to abandon the Godox 8200 completely, and I'm going to put into place an Interfit Honey Badger with a Photox Raja 65 collapsible beauty dish, because I want a white diffuse surface that is going to cover all of the backs of the tubes. So this way I'm getting light coming down evenly through all of the tubes. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to back up from the tubes a little bit and start to create some really cool patterns. You can see this like star pattern here works really, really well for me. And again, this is still exploring a little bit, getting closer, getting further away, trying to keep the camera as level as possible with regards to the tubes so that I don't have to do a lot of correction in post-production. And again, getting close, focusing at various points down the tube, working in manual focus with the focus peaking. For somebody like me who my eyesight is nowhere near the way it was when I was younger, focus peaking is an amazing tool because it allows me to do manual focus functionally. If I had to do manual focus strictly by my eyes at this point, it would be a very slow and kind of painful process because I would just be very worried that I wasn't getting it right. So again, you know, we're just wrapping up here with some various different angles, going back over some of the angles and some of the compositions that I tried earlier, just trying some different exposures with them, trying some you know, slightly different compositions, getting closer, getting further away. As always, it's experimenting, working the shot, looking for different possibilities, knowing that there's always a better shot waiting. So there you have it. So many cool things you can do with the various angles and the intensity of the light, not to mention adding some colored gels. Let's head up to the office. Let's see what we got. All right, gang, we're back in the office. This was a fun shoot. So my total count was like 286 frames, higher than what I've been doing for the last week or so. And I'll be honest, I could have spent another couple hours playing around with these tubes. They were really cool. So remember, we started out with the tungsten light. Then we used the Godox 8200s for white light and colored lights. And then in the end, I went ahead and I added in one of the Interfit Honey Badgers so that I could put the Photox Raja 65 collapsible beauty dish on the front to get a broader light face to be able to do some stuff. So just to give you a sense of what my full take was here, let's go ahead and scroll through everything so that you can see what I narrowed it down to. My first pass of edits brought it down to 73 images. That's where I was at. And then from there, of course, we've got it all the way down actually to 8 today. Or 7, sorry, 7, not quite 6. There's a lot of fun stuff that I want to play with. But don't worry, I'll still pick just one image. So here's everything that we had in the first pass. I'm just going to jump right ahead to my final 7 images. Let's make them a little smaller on the screen here so you can see everything. And there they are. These are the ones that I'm going to work with, right? So as always, let's dive in. Let's open up Camera Raw and see what we have to work with here. I'm going to select, let's see, what do I have? I have 7 of them here, all 7 of them. I'm going to put in the same basically preset values that I've been working with all week. Plus 15 on clarity, plus 30 on saturation, plus 5, excuse me, plus 30 on vibrance, and plus 5. Okay, I'm going to put in the same settings that I've been putting in. Oh my God. Okay, so we've got all 7 selected. I'm going to start out with the same essentially presets that I've been putting in all week. And keep in mind, both in Lightroom and here in Camera Raw, you can set a preset so that it's a one-click to put these in. Honestly, I should. I just haven't, but you can do that. Sharpening, again, for me, I start at 60. And we are going to do the remove chromatic aberration, enable profile corrections, and now we're back to the beginning. So there's a couple things that I'm thinking with these images as a group. I mean, number one, some stuff is definitely going to look cool as black and white. Other stuff is certainly a possibility for color with the color gels that I added, but also even, you know, some other tweaks. So let's just start with this first one. You'll notice this one's a little crooked. So I'm not going to try and straighten it here in RAW. I'm going to do this once I get into Photoshop because symmetry is going to be very, very important to me for pretty much all of these shots. So what I am going to do here, though, is I want to see what will happen with my dehaze. And what I like about that is it brings in just a little bit of the color in the tubes. So I'm going to be able to play with that a little bit there. And I'm curious if I push the clarity up. Oh yeah, that really brings out the detail. And then I'm going to pull the highlights down just to make sure that that detail really pops. Cool. If I bring the shadows up a little bit and then pull the blacks, yeah, I'm really liking that. So now I want to go into hue, saturation, and luminance. I believe there's some orange in there, and there is. You see, if I pull that up, it's just a very, very slight bump, but it's a bump. The blues, we definitely want to make that blue hit. And I don't know about yellows. Am I getting much yellow? There's pretty much nothing in the yellow. How about the reds? If there's almost nothing in the reds. Purples, wherever there's blue, there's going to be a little bit, not much magenta. Okay, so that's where I'm at with the colors. If I go to luminance now, for the blue, I definitely want to darken that just a tad. And for that orange, I'm going to lighten it just a tad. So I think, let's go back here just to kind of see where we're at with this one more time through a fresh set of eyes there. Even add, oh yeah. We push that texture up. Look at how those lines pop now. Okay, so that's going to work right there. This one definitely cool. Hit that dehaze and look at how fierce that gets, right? Bring the shadows up a little bit. Definitely push the texture up to make those pop. And bring the highlights down. There it is. Now we've got that really crazy rich color. And this one, I want you to notice this now because I'm going to show you this when I do the processing. From where I had the light set and the angle that I've got my camera at, I'm pretty much dead center on, but notice how I'm picking up more highlighting on this tube than I am this tube, which means my strobe was probably angled slightly, or I was a little bit more off center than I thought I was. I've got a solution for that. You'll see, okay, when we get there. But for now, I really think that's going to be pretty close to where we work with this. I'm going to really make this fiery red. Pull the exposure down ever so slight. And there we go. Digging out. I like being able to see the edges of the tube, so I definitely wanted that as part of my shot. So cool, very happy with that. And this is another one. It's important to me to kind of be able to see the tubes here. So I'm going to bring that texture slider up because I'm liking this kind of extra grittiness that texture slider is giving. Lighten that just a little bit. Bring the shadows up just a little bit. And then pull the blacks down just so that I'm still getting that that edge. We play with dehaze here. Yeah, it's going to give me just a little contrast boost, not much, but what I can do is I can lighten the image ever so slight. And now I think the dehaze, yep, it's going to get me right where I want to get to. So I'd still like the purple just a tad darker. So while I'm in luminance, I'm going to come in here and grab the purples and the blues, pull them down just a smidge. Now you'll notice I can see a little bit of that U-line logo in this one. Nobody's really going to notice that, but I noticed it. So I'm going to go into hues, and since I know that's blue, I'm going to try pushing it all the way to the purple, and there it disappears. But now things got lighter. So if I go in here to the luminance for the blue and pull that down, I'm pretty much right back where I started, right? So that works out actually really, really well. Totally digging that. I wonder what happens here if I have, no, I was wondering if maybe if I pulled the oranges or the yellows up, it would grab those cardboard tubes, but it doesn't. So that's okay. I'm liking where I'm at there. This one, actually, it's good that I'm in the luminance panel to start because I want to go ahead and I want to pull that purple down. That's it. And then we'll go back out to the basic panel. We're going to pull the highlights down. Cool. And bring the blacks down. Again, I want to see the ends of those tubes. We'll bring that texture up, really get that texture to pop like uber sharp. And that one is done for me at this point. This one, definitely one of my favorite images from the shoot. I did closer ones and I did ones that are back this far. The ones, you know, that are up close, they kind of look cool at first, but then you realize you need a little bit of extra space to play here. So first thing I want to do is I want to pull my highlights down just a little. I want to really give a bump on the blacks, but for sure pull that texture up, hit that dehaze filter, and you know what? This one is pretty darn close to being right where I want it. So yeah, we're going to go right in there. Bring those blacks in a little richer. Cool. So, and by the way, all of these, I'm going to do my final cropping in Photoshop today because there's so much symmetry that's involved. You got to get it just right. So I want to be able to do it in Photoshop where I have a little bit more control. This one here, this one's just fun, right? It just is. You knew I was going to go for the blue. Come on, right? That's my color. There it is. Hit that blue, and then we're going to push that texture. Boom. And that is just so sharp. And bring those highlights down a little bit. Still want it to glow. Oh yeah, love that. That's finished. And this one also kind of cool. There's a lot of different ways that I could imagine going with this. So let's see what we get here. I think I'm gonna go fairly extreme. I'm just not sure. Actually, now the more that I bring that dehaze back down, let's pull the black. Yeah, let's do it that way. That's kind of cool. We still get a little bit of the tubes there. All right, so that's all 7 of those. Let's open these things up in Photoshop and see what we got. All right, so here we are on that first image. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to put a vertical line down the middle. I'm going to copy my background layer, and I am going to basically just tweak this a little bit to get things as squared off as possible. Remember, it's all about details, right? You want these details to be as clean as you possibly can. We're not going to get this one perfect. So it looks like I might have been on just a little bit of an angle with it, but that's okay. I'm going to go with a square crop here, and I want to hit that kind of dead center. And yeah, so I actually have a feeling this is going to be one of the ones that gets dropped out pretty quickly. But let's go ahead and do view, turn those extras off, and actually, you know, it's kind of neat. I'm digging it, but I'm wondering what if I do an adjustment layer with color balance and start to really, yeah, of course, we gotta play with the color a little bit more here. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking. Cool. And I am done with that one right there. That's it. Okay. Next up here, this guy is a lot of fun. And so the key here, also I'm going to duplicate that background layer. I am going to bring in a couple horizontal lines so I can get a sense of where we are at with these. All right, and then I'm going to do a free transform and rotate the image ever so slightly to kind of get things a little better lined up. Good. Now I can go ahead and I'm definitely going to do, I think I'm going to do a 16:9 crop here. So let's see what we get. Yeah. Definitely liking that. Get rid of those extras. Cool. Now, definitely need my dodge and burn layer. Let's set that to black. Get the gradient tool. And these outsides, I want to get them pretty dark. Same with the bottom. That's it. Just have it fade off a little bit so that it's keeping the light going in the direction to the center. Now, remember how I mentioned before that I've got more light on that left tube than I do the right tube? Well, it's actually pretty easy how we're going to deal with this, right? So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to do an edit, copy merged, and I'm going to place that down there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my marquee tool and I'm going to drag it over so that it is right in that split between the two tubes. There we go. Okay. Now that I have that, I'm going to do a modify feather. I'm going to feather it by about 50 pixels. Okay. And now I'm just going to do copy. So Command or Control C, and then Command or Control V to paste. If you look over here in my layers palette, you see I've only got half an image, but then I can go ahead and I can do edit, transform, and flip horizontal. Now, with the move tool, I am just going to slide that over, and I am going to line it up until they match. And so now you'll notice I've got a little extra space on this side, a little less on this side, and I've already committed to the 16:9. So I kind of messed myself up, right? So I could go back and I could do it over again, or I could just go ahead and do select all, edit, copy, merged again, paste it down, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide everything over so that we have balance from side to side. There it is. And then the only other thing I need to do now is blend down a little bit here where, whoops, let's hit the wrong button, the right buttons here, Joe, option. Blend down a little bit so that we can't tell. That's it. Good, and then I'll use my dodge and burn layer again, bring the gradient tool in, and just darken those spots so that it's kind of evened out on both sides. And boom, there we go. That works, okay? All right, next up, let's start with a crop on this one. I like this a lot. I do think that I want to kind of play with the angles just a tad. So let's see what we get here. I want to try and get an even amount of space above and below the tube right there. And yeah, I kind of like the way that fades out. You know what, this one really does not need a whole lot. I'll put a dodge and burn layer on. I'll pull these corners down just a little bit so that everything leads this way. And honestly, that's done. Go ahead and burn down where I can see that U-line logo just a little bit. I'm not going to retouch it out. I'm not going to be crazy anal about it, but I am going to minimize it so that there's not as much of it there, okay? And then that one's done. Next up, this one's kind of cool. It's got a little bit of a sci-fi-ish vibe to it, and I'm wondering what we kind of get if we do a big square. Let's see here. Just reduce that, and I don't know. It's interesting, but I'm not sure this is actually going to work as a square. Let's see. So what I'm curious about here, so this is definitely more cropping than I normally do on an image. I mean, you guys have been watching me now for 2 weeks, and you've seen I don't do a ton of aggressive cropping. I like to get it right in the camera, but I want to see if I can kind of make this balance out here. So what do I get if I do that, but then rotate the whole image? Let's see, 90 degrees clockwise. Yeah, no, so forget the rotate, let's forget the crop. And I think honestly what we're going to do here is we are going to leave this full frame, micro four thirds, okay? What I do want to do is go ahead and put a dodge and burn layer on, and I want to darken down these outsides pretty much all the way around. That way it's like the patterns are kind of coming out of nowhere. That's why I like to have them kind of disappear. Right? Now that spot there where you can see a little bit of the background, I'm just going to paint that down using the dodge and burn tool. Okay, just darken it up so like it was never there. Good. A little piece of flare there I'm going to kind of knock out a little bit. Good. That's it. And then let's make that a whole lot bigger. Bring the opacity down in this to about 14. And then there we go. There it is. I like it. Kind of cool. All right. Next, so this one's a fun one. So now, first thing I want to do is I want to get this leveled. So I'm going to bring a guide down. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate that layer. Command or Control J will do that for me. And then we're going to do free transform. And we want to see what we can level out here. Go a little bit higher. So of course, I'm going to have to kind of make sure that I'm not getting the exact top edge or bottom edge since they don't really line up. But similarly, I'm realizing actually there's another solution here. Let's do this. Let's line up between those tubes right there. And I'll come back a little bit on that. Let's get this lined up. That's perfect. Okay, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the trick that I showed you guys before, and we're going to use this side of the frame. I'm going to use the right side. See that little spot there? I would have to retouch that out, right? But if I take this and I'm going to select that with a marquee tool, I'm going to modify feather about 50 pixels. And then I'm going to Command or Control C to copy, Command or Control V to paste, and there you go. Let's go ahead and line that back up that way. And I'm going to go ahead and do Edit, Transform, Flip, Horizontal. Then I'm going to grab it and I'm going to pull it over here, line everything up, make that round. We'll take the guides off here so that you can see what I'm doing. Time to crop it. I think want to do 16 by 9 or square. Let's start with 16 by 9 and see what we get. I'm going to have a lot to take out up there, so not sure how I feel about that. So let's maybe try square. Let's see what we get. And I want to get that dot right in the center there. All right, so pretty much any way this goes, I'm going to have a little bit of retouching to do. And I should have done the retouching before I did my flip. So instead of going back, let's just go ahead and turn that piece off for now and delete it because we're not going to use that, right? But what I am going to do is I'm going to use a brush, create a new layer, and we're going to set the brush to darken. About 14 opacity is okay. I do want to make the brush a little bit smaller, nice and soft. And I'm going to come up into space now, and I'm just going to paint that down a lot. I especially want to get rid of those highlights that are there. I just want them to disappear completely. So we're going to make that background basically black, right? Let's just paint all that in, fill it in. Good. A little more intense. That's it. So we're going to darken it down. And then, since I did it very fast and kind of really rushed, the edges aren't perfect at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, about 30. Whoop, too much. Let's come back into, there we go, about 9. That'll soften up those edges. Now I can go ahead and I can create a marquee tool down the middle. Let me just put a line there and do that again. So we'll take that. So select it, modify it, feather it by 50. Command or Control C to copy, Command or Control V to paste. Whoops, let's try that again. We can't do Command or Control V. We need to do Edit, Copy, Merged, and now do Command or Control V to paste it. Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, bring it back over to the other edge, and boom. Now I've got it nice and dark at the top, and now what I'm going to do is put a 50% gray layer over the top, and I'm going to start my vignetting on the outside again because I want these things to kind of float in out of nowhere. Now what I'm really liking about the feel this image has now is I feel like there's a lot of yellow in the edges of the tubes, and you know, they're brown cardboard, so there was actually some yellow, right? But what I want to try and do is see if I can exaggerate that yellow a little bit. So let's do a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Go to the yellows, and let me just see what happens. Yep, there's a lot of yellow there. So we're not only going to push the yellow color a little bit, but we are going to lighten it just a little. And then I'm also curious what will happen if I do a color balance layer and we decide to really kind of play with some of the colors here, right? Cool, and awesome. Let's do another hue and saturation adjustment on top. And I'm just going to take all of it and darken it just a little. Go to the reds, darken just a little. There you go. Kind of neat, huh? It's almost like a flower type thing here. Let me take the guides off so that you can see it without the guides. There it is. So I'm kind of really digging that one. And next up, oh yeah, this one's like, this is done, right? Whoops, let's do the 16:9 crop, I think, if I can get that on this one. And put that up near the top. You can bring that in ever so slow. No, I don't want to bring it in. That's, yeah, I love that. Just as is, finished. Okay. And this is another one. This one's going to be square. So I know right out of the box, let me just go to the square crop and we'll get that part dialed in. And then we can kind of figure out where we're going to go with this from a processing standpoint. Yeah, so I'm definitely digging that. Actually, let me do that crop one more time. Feel like I'm a little off center there. Yeah, so that's perfect. That's cool there. Color balance, that's going to be the key, I think, for me. We haven't done a whole lot with the purples. Well, actually, we did purple before. I'm sorry, we did. So let's do greens. We'll get greens with some heavy yellows in there. If we pull a yellow out, we can get a little bit more turquoise. That's it. We'll go with that. Sweet. And then same thing. Dodge and burn layer. Burn down these lines where it comes into the image. That's it. Cool. I'm digging it. All right, whoops. Okay, so just make sure I got a fresh layer on all these. All right, so gang, here we go. Shot number one, probably my least favorite of the batch. Number two with the oranges, really cool. Number three, kind of the isolated purple. I actually really like the feel of that shot. Number four, more purple, a little bit of a alien kind of vibe to it with that little eyeball feel there. Number five is our flowery effect with the reddish tint. Number six, we've got the tunnel in the blue. And number seven, we've got the green teal glow. So favorite for the day. I think that I would have to say my favorite shot for the day, definitely a toss-up. It's between, whoops, sorry. It's between the reddish flower and the fiery orange tubes that you see there. I'm also a big fan of the blue tunnel. As far as what image is going to be my cover, you already know. So there's your answer. So look, that's the end of day 8. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So the challenge for you guys tomorrow is not going to be the same as it has been. In fact, the challenge tomorrow doesn't require you picking up your camera at all. So make sure you check back. In the meantime, stay healthy, stay safe. Please pick up your camera and shoot something. Because your best shot, it's your next shot, gang. Adios.